And a lot of you will roll in and forget and think it's Friday. Start asking me questions and I mess people's day up. So let me put this on subscriber only because chaos in the trolls department, and then chat filter all messages. There we go. That means people who are subscribed, you can troll me freely on the uploaded version. Nobody stops that. But while we're live, nobody has time for you to be a troll. Hey folks, rolling in. Oh goodness, it's a day. It's a day. Let me get some tea here. Which one was I gonna do? I don't remember now. I believe this is the silver needle. I'm just gonna start calling it the kneader. And I'm gonna do a pretty strong cup today. So there's a fair amount in there. This is a white needle tea. And you know, like white tea, green tea, black tea, they're all from Camellia sinensis. They just are processed differently. It's not, there's different like species within the plant, right? Different varieties, but they're all the same plant. So because it's a white tea, I'm gonna go way down to 170 Fahrenheit. Actually, I'm gonna do 180. I like to do 170 for the greens and 180 for the whites. Brain continues to be mush. You know, just getting ready for like, or doing holiday sales and all the stuff that entails with that. My brain is just from computer work. You know, it doesn't look like much because I don't have the big shop update things that I used to do anymore. But I'm on that computer probably 5 hours a day or more. Just like planning and fixing and updating things, you know. So today I thought, hey everybody, you're rolling in. I thought we would do a personal Q&A. Almost knocked that over onto my lap. I thought we would do a personal Q&A because I haven't done one of those in a while. Fridays are my health stuff where people can ask me to dump my brain out about herbs and health conditions and things like that. So I thought that maybe we could do, where you ask me questions about myself. You don't have to. Maybe it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, ask me a question about myself, and then nobody asks. So I'm like, oh, whoops. So I thought that might be a good idea. So if you have questions for me about myself, if you've had a question you wanted to ask me about myself, or like maybe something along those lines that isn't health related, feel free to say, hey April, I was wondering, and throw a question at me. And if not, I'll just sit here and talk with myself as I have some tea. Question off the wall. Is Graham your married name or your maiden name? It is my maiden name. I did not change my last name when I got married. It's not a thing that is super commonly done in my culture. Like sometimes, and then the kids, like my poor kid, she gets multiple last names, you know, and so like I keep mine, and then the kids get both of them. You know, that's just kind of the way it goes. What is my favorite childhood memory in nature? You know, it's hard to peg one, and I think my favorite, maybe not my favorite memory, but the thing that popped to my mind was, so growing up, like I was a tomboy, all my friends were boys, I didn't really know how to interact with girls, still kind of don't know how to interact. You know, I grew up that way, like, I was, for all intents and purposes, the son my dad always wanted, right? So I grew up all with, you know, boys and stuff like that, and we were always up to no good, deep in the woods, drinking, partying, and stuff like that. And we were like way, way, way up in the cuts, and oh, I'm gonna spill a little bit of that when I put the lid on, and you know, we always pranked each other and stuff, and so I had dug what I called a drunk hole. With the intention of tripping and maiming one of my friends, no doubt. And I was so proud of it, and we were waiting for a particular friend to come back from, I think he was like digging a shitter or something like that, and I was like, he's gonna get it. I was so excited. I was like, he's gonna fall in it, and it didn't happen. But then the next morning, having forgot all about it, I fell into my own trap, and I didn't just fall into my own trap, like it had rained overnight, and like the dirt that I had taken out of the hole was just there in a pile. And so when I fell, my face went like into like a mud pie I had unintentionally made, basically, and everybody saw it. And it was, you know, I'm always pretty good at laughing at myself when shit goes wrong, so you know, it was pretty funny. Um, let's see. Do I have plans for a personal workshop? Gonna hang out day for the weekend? I don't. Honestly, years ago, I had worked towards getting land to open up a free herbalism farm where people could come and learn for free and take workshops and stuff. And then two things happened. We got here at the end of 2019, like the very beginning of 2020, and after a flood hit our area, only 2 months later, 2020 happened. Right, and so like the world shut down, and that stopped everybody from doing anything for a long time. But then during that period, I really grew, you know, and that growth unfortunately brought some very unstable people. I mean, there was always crazy people online, but it got to the point where like I was getting the type of death threats where we actually had to contact the FBI and stuff like that. A lot of people really, really, really want to kill me for talking about like the herbal industry for profit, as well as the dangers of essential oils. Um, I even put at the end of my book, if I die accidentally, mysteriously, in a sudden accident, it probably wasn't an accident. Right, you know, but then I started to do like these meet and greets. I did 2 meet and greets, and unfortunately at the end of the second one, we had somebody follow us and try to like figure out where I lived, and like it was a whole like we got lucky because we saw that there was a sheriff parked at a gas station, and we like pulled in. We were like, hey, this person is like following us, and then like they pulled in and saw me, and they like fucking sped off, and it was just like, so at this point, like I feel like to do personal like meetups, I have to have it like very well planned, and I have to do it like nowhere near my home. And I don't know, it's just scary. People are crazy right now. So, question, what do you feed your dogs? Right now, we use the stupid, expensive Taste of the Wild dog food, but they also get eggs and raw milk and meat scraps and stuff like that. But I don't, I mean, honestly, if people have like the time and the dedication to do like the raw meat diet, that's the best thing. I mean, we just kind of supplement normal food, but we do get the high quality food that doesn't have any grains in it, and it's primarily meat. So I don't feel as bad. You know, I'm not like feeding them like Old Roy or something like that. But I mean, if that's all you can afford, it's better than your dog starving. Right? You know, we've all been there as humans too, you know. Um, but yeah, so we just use that Taste of the Nature stuff. But they get a lot of raw milk, and that seems to help. Especially we have an elderly dog right now, and like raw milk like keeps him really youthful. Um, what if any winter holiday traditions does your family celebrate? Christmas? Yeah, I mean just Christmas. That's really it. I don't have a whole lot of family left. Like when growing up, I had like a huge family. I didn't just have a huge family. I had like a cultural network of family, right? And then like as people like assimilated into like just being an American, but also like as times changed, and like I was born to older parents. So by the time I was a kid, I had been to a lot of funerals, right? And so I really only have my parents, and then of course my kids and my husband. I have my parents, my sister, her kid, and then I have an aunt and an uncle that are like just hanging on by a thread. My one aunt, she's just alive out of pure spite. I love her to death, but she's a very hard woman. She like had a real hard life growing up, and then like hard relationships, and then went into the Navy where women were typically just nurses, but she worked her herself well past that, and so she got plenty of like physical abuse for like being a woman in charge in the Navy at that time, and she was stationed in Japan for a while, and she just never really like, this woman has held me by my throat up against a fridge and was like, "You want to go see your grandma?" And I was like, "Fuck you!" Like, I was never quiet. So we have a Christmas is about what we do, you know. There's nothing special outside of that. It used to be. It used to be a lot bigger. It used to be a lot different when my grandma Audrey was still alive. You know, Christmas was like crazy. So like growing up, we always had like, honestly, too many presents to open. Not one of them were new, because like, I swear to God, like thrifting, like at yard sales and stuff, was like part of our culture. So like, they would start from like day one buying Christmas presents, and like, I remember being a kid, like you would get tired of opening presents, right? But it was like a big thing, like culturally, like used to have these really, really, really big Christmases because it was like a way to show that like you were like doing well, and I don't know, it was a big deal. Um, Let's see, question. Let's see. What of my synergism capsules do I take personally? That's a great question. It really depends. I love the raw synergism capsules. I also cycle on and off with the rosemary lion's mane as well as the California poppy ginkgo. And then, of course, I always have a bottle of the geez, my brain. I use the memory one, I swear. I always have a bottle of the ginger charcoal for like stomach aches and stuff like that. But yeah, it just depends on what I'm needing at any given time. How do I know so much, and how are you able to retain all the information? It's just part of my neurodiversity. I'm just kind of weird. I inherited it from my dad. I have what's called matrix thinking. Basically, like, think of my brain like a big spider web that has like filed compartments on it. You know? And so like when somebody asks me something, it lights up. You know how a spider can feel a bug on its web anywhere? My brain is kind of like that. So if somebody asks me a question, it's like ding, 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 and like all these like file things pop up, and it might not happen instantly, but it also can make people think that I'm like weird, or have ADHD, or tell really long-winded stories, but really my brain is making all the intricate interconnections to give you like a full answer you didn't know you wanted, or don't need, or don't want, you know? Um, so it's just part of my neurodiversity, and it can be overwhelming sometimes, right? Like sometimes I just like sometimes my day will be eaten up by like my brain's desire to understand or be curious or Google or read, and it just kind of absorbs it. But I don't have a photographic memory. It's not the same thing. Um, I can remember some shit you said that pissed me off from like 15 years ago, though. Like in an intricate level, right? Um, let's see. What helped you most during benzo withdrawal? Accepting that there was no way through but through, right? Like in the beginning when I started coming off of benzos, I did what I said my brain does, and I was looking for the answer. I was looking for the fix. I was looking for the thing that could solve it, that could make it go away, that could make it better, and ultimately that thing was accepting the fact that you're just going to have to experience this. And that was hard, but it also took a lot of pressure off of me. Took a lot of pressure off of me to figure it out, you know. And I'm not going to say that it took away any of the symptoms, but liquid titration is super fucking important. If you're still trying to just cut pills or like whittle them down or weigh them, you're harming yourself. And when I started using liquid titration, which is basically where you take a certain amount of liquid, and I found that baby food puree worked better than water or anything else because it suspended it well, and then you crush up your dose and you put it in there and you do the math. You're like, if I put 1 milligram in like 10 milligrams, I know that it's divided by, right? You divide your milligram by the amount of liquid that you put it in, and then you know how much you have per milligram, right? There's videos on it about it on YouTube. Jeez, my brain sometimes goes faster than my mouth. But once I started doing that, it really helped. It really, really helped. With like the symptoms from when you step down not being as horrendous. So I would like titrate down every 2 weeks. I would take like 1/2 ml less, which doesn't sound like very much, but if you've never been on benzos for very long, you have to go fucking slow. It took me 2 years to safely titrate down off of let's see, I was taking like, it's been so long now, it was like 10 milligrams of Klonopin a day, which if you don't know, Klonopin is like the strongest benzo there is. But yeah, So, somebody said, April, I'm taking your She Legit and Bee Pollen capsules and I feel great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad to hear. Yeah, people don't think about one of these days they're going to establish the daily value needed for fulvic acid. And when that day happens, you know, it'll be nice. But right now, people, it's something that's missing and they don't even know it. They don't even know that it's missing from their diet, you know. Um, it's just something that a lot of people need, and people often, like with the She Legit, the trick is to do really small doses over an extended amount of time, because what'll happen is people will buy the resin or the tea. It tastes horrible. It doesn't smell or taste good. It's like an ancient plant resin, right? So it's not meant to be super tasty, and people take a big amount and then it makes them all fucking jittery and like feel like all anxious, and they're like, oh, I can't use it. But I'm like, if you use itty bitty tiny microscopic amounts over a long period of time, it does far more support than taking the big doses that taste like shit and might make you feel like you don't want to take it, but it also pushes your body too fast. You can end up doing the same thing with like nettle infusion. Like people they jump on the nettle and they drink a whole cup in a day and then they have a fucking panic attack, you know, and then they like have like hard diuretic effects and they're like, oh, that was so bad for me. I'm like, no, you just took too much because your body's super demineralized. And so when you start giving your body all these nutrients, it does not know what to do, so it loses its shit. And all of a sudden you're like shaky and feel nauseated and maybe have a stomach ache or pee too much, right? You got little bits work your way up, right? Um, so, question, do you do farm chores and dresses? I do. Most of the time, I don't think I even have a pair of pants that fits me right now. I don't think I do. I have like maybe one or two. But yeah, I doesn't stop me. Doesn't stop me. It's also like usually just I'm like helping my husband chase a cow or something like that, you know. It doesn't stop me at all. I'm also like not afraid for them to be like ripped and stuff, so it just kind of like if it gets, but that's like almost inevitable out here because of how many fucking invasive rose bushes we have. Like it is dangerous. So it grabs on and tears things, you know, and there's not really a whole lot you can do about it. The only thing I change really is my shoes, you know. But also my family see me do plenty of stuff in some like basically just like barefoot shoes that have no protection for my toes would freak people out. But you know, a goat stepping on your toe, like when if we're like doing a whole lot of cattle stuff where we would have to be close to them, I wouldn't wear open toe shoes, right? But a cow, I mean, if a goat steps on your foot, it sucks, but it's not like the end of the world. They're not gonna take your toe off with their hoof, you know. Um, Question, how do you manage your anxiety now after quitting benzos? That's what's stopping me. I use benzos to prevent or manage panic attacks. Fun fact, have you ever read like the pamphlet for your benzos? Did you know long-term use of benzos causes anxiety, panic attacks, and agoraphobia? So I was on disability for a decade for CPTSD, just to put like the severity of it out there, right? And they gave me benzos. I remember, I'll never forget when she said, take this pill so you know what normal feels like, because you don't know what normal feels like anymore. Instead of helping me with my trauma or address my night terrors or the things that I went to. And it took me about 3 weeks to take it because I was kind of sketched out by pills at that point in my life. And then for the next decade, it doesn't make your anxiety go away. You just don't feel anything. That's what happens when you flood your brain with GABA, right? So getting off of the benzos is horrendous because my agoraphobia, which was caused by benzo use and all that stuff, was really bad. But I don't really have anxiety anymore. I don't have anxiety attacks. I got myself off of disability, you know. And so I'm not saying that like benzos don't have their time and place, but most of the time it's causing your issues and it's preventing you from facing like your own shit, right? Like facing like your trauma and your reasonings for not looking at things, and it helps you just kind of hide and not pay attention to your body, right? Like I also almost never ate food, so I wonder why I was anxious. I also didn't have good sleep patterns, and I lived off of ultra processed food when I did eat, right? Like I hadn't faced any of my trauma, I hadn't faced any of my stuff, I hadn't faced any of the bullshit in my relationship. I hadn't faced any of the bullshit in myself. But doing all that, while I came off of benzos, I just raged, man. If you follow me on Instagram, you can go through like all of my old posts. I've been on there for a decade, and I was ripping into myself. I was ripping into society. I was ripping into my loved ones. I was ripping into every aspect around me. Like just got fucking murder killed, right? And at the end of it, I came out of it really well off. You know, like I don't have anxiety attacks anymore. I don't have nightmares anymore. I don't need medication for anxiety. I don't need any of that stuff, you know. And it's not easy, and it's not going to be like something that just happens overnight, but like if you're willing to work at it and keep pushing through it and evaluating yourself and your actions and things like that and doing your best and forgiving yourself when you step back a bit before you step forward a bit, because that's just the way it always works, you can probably make a big change in your anxiety. um, Best advice for raising responsible teen girls. I want to give grace, but also want my girls to understand that they are responsible for their actions. Now, I'd like to point out that my daughter is 17 and she's moderating this right now, and I don't know how I got so lucky with her. You know, uh, and it's hard to say because she might have more insight as the person being as the person being parented, but I've always just tried to be a real human with her, which has been good and bad probably. Yeah, I could probably use better filters, but I think that like people forget that you can be a friend without not being a parent, right? Like cuz right, hun, like I'll tell you no. I'll tell you no about things, but also, I don't know. I feel like we're still pretty good friends. I don't feel like you walk over me. I feel like we've been able to, like, I mean, we've definitely clashed, right? Like, we've definitely clashed, but I almost think that it's important that we clash sometimes. I think people don't allow their kids to be human, and kids also sometimes don't realize that their parents are human, right? But I think that's because we've structured it that way, you know. But you almost need to give you a reason for your not to trust your kids, right? Like trust them to make good choices and understand that as teenagers we all make dumb fucking choices sometimes, you know. And so instead of being there to like punish them when they do something wrong, like talk with them through it, like, well, how could we have done that different, and you know, what was that experience like? But like, I'm not a perfect parent. I might have just gotten lucky. I really um giving space after the clash is helpful because it gives the teen time to reflect on how they just affected their own emotions. Yeah, and that was a big thing. See, I'm an over explainer because people like growing up never understand me, and so I used to like try to constantly like talk it out, talk it out, talk it out, and that works sometimes. But I'll say in the past year and a half or so, 2 years, I've learned to just let her be angry about something. And usually what happens is she'll come out and talk with me about it, and we still might not agree on things, but she will, you know, tell me she's sorry she's reacted a certain way and didn't mean to be that way, and then I can like take accountability for like how I've reacted. And it's important to remember that it's the apologizing that matters. Now we can't just treat someone like shit and then just say sorry and do it over and over again, but it's when like we give a person the grace to be a human, fucking pop off at the mouth or be snappy or grumpy. That happens to all of us. It's the fact when they reflect enough to come back and say, I'm sorry. I know that I was, you know, and I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I know that I did, you know, and I had to do the same thing too, you know. And I think that might be where we're at right now. And it could depend on the day. We have good days, we have bad days, you know. But I think, and it's hard for me because, like, growing up, I had zero parent oversight. Like, nada, nothing. Like, no insight, really. Nothing, no guidance, no, like, I never really got punished, but then was like, I don't know, it was weird growing up, and then by the time I was 13, I hit the streets, so it's like I raised myself. Um, so, you know, I didn't really have a whole lot to go off of other than don't do that. So we just kind of won. And I'm a young mom. I'm 39 now, but my daughter will be 18 in April, and she's my youngest. So before I'm 40, both of my kids will be legal adults. You know, my son is already 21, so um, that was me trying to talk it out, and I had to stop and give space. Yeah, that's hard, right? Because we want to, as humans, regardless if it's our kids or our partners or anybody, we want people to understand where we're coming from. But the hardest part is accepting that maybe not everybody will understand in that moment or ever, right? Because we all live such a different existence. I want to thank you for putting yourself out there like this. You're welcome. I think you've done a great job of raising yourself. Some rough years. I'll say that for sure. Some rough years. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. In the past year and a half, maybe less, the thing that I've been having to like allow myself to do is become feminine. And that's been weird for me. Not that I was ever not feminine, but like even from like a mental and energetic standpoint, like when you grow up on your own, like even if I wasn't friends with all boys, like being homeless, like there's no place there for like, I don't mean like to be a feminist, but like to be like feminine. Like there's no place there for that. There's no place there for not being able to just like fucking bootstrap and do it, right? And I held that mentality for a long time. I still fight it, right? Like even, even like the urge to be like hyper successful and like push, but I don't mean like a corporate type success, like, but like even the urge to like constantly try to do your best to make money, which we all do that, but like if you think about it, that's not really like how women are inherently wired. It doesn't mean that we can't do that and that we shouldn't do that to an extent, but for me it was just like, I don't know, like it was weird. Like I've always worn dresses, like probably for the past like 8 or 9 years, but like I don't know. Like it's hard. It's hard to put words to it. It's hard to put words to it. Like it's something internal, like letting go of a drive and a need to constantly like protect and figure out. And it's been hard. It's been hard to like step back from that role, even though I live in that role. And so it's something that I'm just navigating right now. Yeah, femininity is vulnerability, but what's funny is for me is that I've never had a problem with being vulnerable in the way of like discussing hard things. People know that, right? Especially if you follow me on Instagram. I've never been afraid of that type of stuff, but I suspect the vulnerability you're talking about is like where you don't feel like you're necessarily, I don't know, like in control or capable or protected, right? And so it's like, yeah, it's been something that I've been like working on allowing myself to feel, and it's got to be hard for my husband because like I've always been this really like assertive woman in that way, like and he, I'm not saying he's not assertive, but like it's always been like I make the decisions, I figure things out, like I make the plans. And so as I try to step back, I'm like trying to like let him step into that so we can like swap roles accordingly, you know but we're both just kind of odd ducks, so it might just end up somewhere in the middle. um what got me through hard times? I don't really have a choice. That has been like my main thing. Like I don't know how people have a choice to not figure something out. And I think that probably comes from being like homeless street kid type stuff, right? Like I don't really see like laying down and dying as an option. And I don't know why I have such a drive to survive, but I do. Like I don't, like my brain, I think it's my brain won't let me. My brain won't let me not think of a fucking scenario. Like I'll probably be like 97 with dementia and like uttering possibilities for people. Right, nobody will know what I'm talking about, but if they paid attention, applied it to something in life, they might be like, damn, but yeah, I just, yeah, I think that that's probably it. I just don't know that I ever had a choice but to figure it out. And it probably comes from parenting myself a lot, if I'm honest with myself. You know, somebody said, I've never been taken care of and I find it hard not to do everything and now I can't. Um, Being vulnerable is hard for me. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing, when I talk about it with my husband a lot. He's like, when we talk about like stress and things, he'll be like, no matter what, you're always figuring something else out to do. And it's like, you're always adding something to our plate. And I'm like, yes, that is a problem I have. But part of it is because I don't feel like it's safe for me to stop. Because there hasn't been anybody there to say, it's safe for you to not figure this stuff out. Let me figure it out. Or, and so it's kind of like a, oh, back and forth. And so it feels like it's just safer to do it yourself or to figure it out yourself or constantly support yourself. But then, it can go bad when you go down, because eventually you will, right? And if there's nobody there to pick up the pieces, it just kind of fucking salts in the wound and ingrains it more, so it makes it hard to let go of it. Somebody says, I know what you mean, you want to stop sometimes, but then the next necessity comes along and you just deal with it. Yeah. Hypervigilance is hard, it really is. Question, what's your favorite fun thing to do in November, either alone or with family? I I kind of just like existing. With like, no, but I like it. I like when I'm able to have like the wood stove going, and like maybe I'm working, so that's not healthy to say work is my favorite thing, but like I just kind of like when it feels cozy, like, you know, where I've got tea and there's a wood stove going and like maybe like random lo-fi in the background and everything is just calm. That might be my favorite thing. I don't know that I probably don't get out and do enough stuff, if I'm being honest with myself. But I also live somewhere really rural, and so there's not like a ton of stuff to go do here, you know. Wintertime, there's more like winter type sports stuff, but that's about it. Um, but yeah, by the way, thank you for sharing your Tuesday morning with us. Oh, yeah, thank you for being here with me. I think it's good. I think it's better than. I know I was doing them every day and people really liked that and they really looked forward to it. But I think that right now, just a 1 day a week is better for like my mental health because some mornings are fucking hard. Right, and it's okay that I have hard mornings, but you know, there's just something about being able to exist in the hard and the chaos without having to like necessarily always emotionally process it on a live video. You know, um, somebody said, "My God, I lost a day somewhere." Yeah, no, I know that feeling. My kids haven't been in school for a long time, so I'm like, "What day is it?" No, I now I know days a little bit better. I know my days. Um, because I do have like my like Facebook ad type agency that helps me with stuff, and they don't contact me on weekends. So I know that I have that weekend off. I know it's the weekend because I don't get any messages from them. You know, and that's usually early in the morning because they're located in London, so it's like, you know, by the time it's 7 8 a.m. here, it's like it's almost time for them to get off work. You know. Um, Do you believe that astrology is an important factor for understanding how we function physically and mentally? I mean, I guess. It can be a little bit, but I don't think it has as much weight as people think it does, you know? Like I'm a Cancer, and I know that I'm like a double Cancer in that regard. Like my sun and my moon is Cancer, but like I fucking hate to swim. But no, I mean there are a lot of things that are definitely like it. But like my husband is a Virgo, and absolutely nothing like a Virgo, right? It just I think it depends on how much somebody wants to emulate it, right? And then there's of course the debate where did it start when you were born or the 9 months you were alive in your mother's stomach? Right. And so, you know, I mean, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but I think people can take it too far, right? I think people can take it too far or like and just like push themselves and it kind of can become for some people like a little bit of an obsession. Like they might not be friends or get in a relationship with somebody because of like whatever their sign is, and that's really sad because what if that person like was actually meant for them or like would have been a really good friend or could have taught them something, but they're just like rejected based on when they were born, right? You know. Um Okay, question. What are the meanings behind your tattoos? I know I get this one a lot. I've answered it quite a few times in the past. For me, they're cultural. They're a part of how I pray, like physically. You know, it's like generations of ancestors and feeding ancestors and like all that type of stuff. I know it's hard. And it's also like really empowering for me because when I was younger, I was kind of like emotionally forced into getting a tattoo that didn't really mean anything on my chest and getting that covered, and I could have chose a big chest piece that was all whatever. The tattoo artist was like, "Are you sure you just want a circle?" I'm like, "No, it's specific. Like it's not just a black circle because I just want a black circle. It's like very specific, like generationally, you know." And so yeah, so to me it's really like hyper personal. um Question: do I still sell tinctures? I will probably later in this winter. It's one area I've struggled to get help with, like to make large amounts because the minimum order quantity is so massive. So I'm hopeful that come summer I'll hit the ground running with really big batches, and I have some stuff in my own apothecary that I'll be like, I've got like 80 gallons worth of different tinctures that need to be bottled up, and I'm not overestimating. I mean it. So I'll have a lot hit the shops throughout the winter, and then come springtime, I'm going to jump into production with a facility, which getting them to produce with fresh plant matter and 100 proof vodka was tricky, right? But their minimum order quantity is like I have to order like I think it's something like 20,000 bottles, and I can only split that 4 ways. So it's gonna be slow, just like everything else. I got one cream in the shop, and that took me like 4 months to do. Like it, when you're going through like all the regulation and testing and time and stuff like that, and it takes a long time. But also, I don't have like millions of dollars. If somebody wants to hand me like a cool 5 million right now, I could put like everything that's missing from the shop into production for most part. But it takes me time. But I'll get there. I started out with just one synergism capsule. Now I've got like 12 or 13, I started out with no cream, now I've got one. I've got 3 mouth mud varieties now, and I only had one, so I'm just kind of slowly pushing stuff out. But yeah, I just all I saw was somebody said, Elizabeth, did you mean to type autistic? No, I'm not autistic though, if that was the question. My husband is, but I'm not. Question, I love your books. Any more books or any other special projects in the works? Yes, I'm working on my IMF protocol, and I'm hopeful to have that out maybe by spring, maybe a little sooner, depending on how I feel this winter. And that one is all about how like it's like a literal protocol for us to like reconnect to the land, but like sans spiritual, there's no spiritualness to it, like, because, and there's nothing wrong with spirituality, but like it often pushes people away from connecting to the land, and you don't have to be any certain way to show up and like heal yourself with like the way humans have for thousands of years in regards. And so I'll be going over like in a scientific manner about like how the sun impacts us, grounding, water, fire, sound, food, all this type of stuff. And like also because I know we can't all just like randomly move to the woods because there's billions of us. I'm also like sharing how we can, like, if we can't have access to that, like what can we do for free, what can we do for a little bit of money, what can we do for all the money, right? Like, and try to make it as accessible as possible, that way anybody can read it and follow along. And what's taking me so long, other than just general human interference in life, is I want to make a big compilation video to go along with it, so anybody has access to the video, and then if you want to dive deeper into the science, you could buy the protocol. Right, and so I started last year on it, but then fire season struck just like that, so I couldn't do a good portion of the videos because I need to be able to burn a fire. But I'm working on that, yeah. But yeah, I know a lot of that stuff exists already, but I haven't really come across anything where it's all together in that way without spirituality involved, right? And again, not that we can't be spiritual, but like, I don't know. I see a lot of people get shut out of this space. Like, I see people get shut out of, like, connecting to the land or even herbalism in general because maybe they don't feel like they want to dress in linen 24/7. Maybe they don't personally identify with the person that, maybe you don't look like me. Maybe you don't feel like me. Maybe you don't believe like me. But then we project our beliefs and our ideas so strongly that if it happens on, like, a big area, like if all of herbalism is spiritual, then people feel like they're not allowed to, right? People feel shut out because they maybe don't like live that type of life, right? And I'm just not here for that. Like, you can be you, I can be me, and I don't need to shove me down you. Like, so I just kind of felt like it needed to be done because it doesn't really exist anywhere else. Your channel has inspired me to empower my friends and family so they can learn about herbs and the earth and things to help ourselves. Thank you. So grateful for you. You're welcome. I'm glad to hear it. I still just use my phone. It's crazy to think that I've got like over 450 videos, and every single one of them is with a phone recording the wrong way. But I don't regret it because things have evolved so far that everybody does everything on their phone now. Everybody's watching me in this format for the most part, right? From my phone. And so, people always ask me what my secret is, and I'm like, just show up. Like, I'm not perfect in any of my videos. And I don't have a script. I just sit down and I do them. I mean, on occasion I have to, like, prep for a video. Like, I need all the ingredients. But enough of you have seen that I forget things often in my video. I'm like, shit, I didn't grab this, forgot to bring that. You know, it's all pretty impromptu. But I think I've heard from enough of you that that's why you like me, because I'm just a human. But I don't know how people have energy not to be. Like I don't like I already mask in so many ways in like daily life to just exist as myself. I couldn't imagine masking like, hello, today we will talk about calendula. You know, and then like be perfectly spoken and not have human issues or not mess up on words or like just not be a human. Like I don't know. I don't know how people do it. I don't even know that I can take credit for it. Just that I don't have the energy or the mental capacity to do it. I could do like a skit making fun of it, but that's about it, you know. Um, Somebody said, I'm connected to the land and don't wear linen all the time, lol. Teaching what and how herbs work, you know, to each hers own. Yeah, you know, pretty much. Yeah, but a lot of people, it's because we work in aesthetics now, right? Like, I got an aesthetic background right here. And it's just a thing that humans do, right? But like there are people like especially herbalists where they like I mean any influencer, they like figure out their color theme and they're this and they're that and their pictures always have a soft filter and they're always like talking super duper spiritual and they never have problems and they say shit like you should have all of your emotional things worked out but don't make anything when you're angry. Better be a full moon. Right, like, or whatever. And it's okay that they believe that, but it makes the average person feel like they aren't good enough, like they don't have permission to start yet because they haven't learned enough or worked out their spirituality enough, or they have PTSD or some other shit, so they don't feel like they can access that realm, you know? Or it doesn't look like them or mirror them in any way, and so they're like, oh, I can't do that, I could never be that. It creates this unrealistic aesthetic, right? You know? Um, I had a lady tell me the other day, and it's not the first time I've ever heard it. She was like, "If you wore makeup, you would look healthier, and people would buy more of your products." Right? And I'm like, thanks, Karen. Her name was actually Karen. Her name was actually Karen. But I don't want to do that. Like, first of all, I just don't wear makeup. I like grew up like kind of rebelling against it, right? So I don't want to. Like I have flawless skin because I don't ever put anything on my skin to pollute it. But there's nothing wrong with people do want to wear makeup, but also like I don't want to like I don't know. I kind of feel like it's become dishonest at this point with how much makeup somebody wears and how many filters they put on their face. Like I want you to see when I look tired. I want you to see when I'm a human. I want you to see when I'm looking better. I want you to see where I'm like going through life and things like that. And you should also know that my hair is slowly starting to turn gray and I'm not going to do anything about it. Right? You know, and so I feel like it's dishonest and it misleads people and it shuts people out regardless if it's like makeup or aesthetic or whatever I was rambling about, um, but also it's so cool. So it started with, I noticed this weird stripe in one of my dreadlocks and I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh my God. So a lot of people think that dreadlocks are just dead hair. I have proof otherwise. Because, so for those of you who don't know, my dreads hang onto the ground, like they drag on the ground by about 1.5 feet, 2 feet at this point. I don't know, I haven't measured in a while. And so all the way down this one dreadlock, I have a white stripe that works its way down like a snake. It's going through the whole dreadlock, all the way down to the very tip of the dreadlock. And so it's living. It's living hair all the way from the top all the way to the bottom. But to be fair, my dreadlocks are natural. I didn't twist them in. I didn't back comb. It was just real fucking nasty for like 2 or 3 years when I was homeless. And then like all I ever did was separate. So they like grow out from the top down versus people who like put them in from the top up, right? So that might be why. But yeah, it's just this one dreadlock and this one little patch of hair is like, and I will have not gray hair, but like platinum white. And I'm excited about that because it's so white. It's like not even gray or silver. It's like white. It's like the color of this. It's like white, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be so cool because as they grow, this will still stay blonde, right? Like, but some of it will like start being stripy and stuff, and I'm here for it. I've always just thought it was really beautiful when women had like silver or gray or white hair. Or the prettiest is like when redheads go white because they get like strawberry blonde type color. It's just beautiful, you know. Um, But yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Just being a real human and letting myself be what I'm gonna be at any given moment is, I mean, the best advice you can probably get if you're going to exist or do any sort of social media, because we need more of it. We need more people just showing up and being themselves and allowing their views to like shift and change and deciding what you're going to share, when you're going to share, look however you want to look when you show up, and just allow yourself to make mistakes and that type of stuff. But um, somebody said I too am at 34. I don't know how to embrace it. Well, I'm 39, so and my mom started going gray around early 40s. So it can be genetics, but if anybody's going gray like super early, right, or if it's like really fast out of nowhere, or if it's just patches. Now it can happen in patches, right? But like if you're not getting like little specks of silver or gray or white everywhere, you might get, and I know I'm shifting into the other part of my brain, but you might look at your minerals and your stress levels, because certain mineral deficiencies, especially the B vitamins, can cause you to go gray really early, or copper deficiency can cause you to go gray early. Sometimes zinc to a lesser extent, right? So looking at that stuff is also a factor. Looking at your cortisol levels, like, it's a real thing. People can go through a hyper traumatic effect and then their hair goes white. That's a real thing. Science doesn't even understand how or why it happens, but they acknowledge that it does. And so I don't know with mine, because it hasn't really spread a whole lot. But I guess I see, and my husband says he can see more of like a silver type sheen over like my upper dreadlocks, like underneath, like close to my head. So it might be happening because of age. I did have some vitamin deficiencies that I've corrected. Like, it could be from that. I also like am stressed, just like as a person. So that's possible too. But on that note, I just looked at the clock. I've been talking for 46 minutes instead of 30. So I'm going to jump off. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you do want to support my existence, to just be a human, to keep a roof over my head, tea in my pot, you can become a member. There's nothing hidden behind a paywall. When I am able to upload videos, it's been a weird month for that. You do get early access to videos as I upload them, but if you can't afford, I don't want you to even worry about it, because it's not a paywall, it's just a little time wall, meaning I release a video on the weekend anyway, so you don't have to pay to see it. Eventually it becomes for everybody. You can also call things home from my apothecary. I have all kinds of stuff, including should have talked about it, my newest book series, Common Herbs for Common People. There's something for everybody there, and you can use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, to save 10% off anything you'd like in the apothecary. If you can't do any of that, or even if you can, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and share. Sharing is super important because it helps other people realize that they're smart enough to do this, that you can just be a real human, that you can take your health back into your hands, and it doesn't have to be as complicated as people make it. So thank you so much for watching, folks, and I'll see you on Friday, which is when I do my herbal Q&As. Bye.